I sent a new link.
come up with ways
I sent a new link for the.
And these are all the banks integrated services. I want to thank so many of you that you were part of this process. It was a very extensive process. It took us 4 years to do it because we wanted to get consensus. We exchanged with so many people across the continent, over and outside the continent. We tried to make sure that this was going to be something that was going to be workable for us. It's different from what we've seen. Many of you also are aware of the safeguard policies and systems of other institutions. Is different because we speak to Africa. Other institutions probably develop from different regions. It's difficult to have a safeguard policy that is common, applies to everyone. So that's one of the things we can do. So I want to thank those who are involved in this. And for those who have not, I'm going to quickly take us through what the key issues are here. Next slide. The African Development Bank is in the process of, amongst and with other colleagues, driving Africa's transformation in the next 50 years. And we realize that in doing this, we need to do things differently, we need to do things better. And that policy will come up with the 10-year strategy of the bank, what we call the long-term strategy, and basically hinges on two objectives of inclusive growth and a transition to green growth. And this is 5 key areas we want to concentrate. The bank is not going to be everything to everybody. We need to work where we have our competence and where we think we have operational advantage over others. So the next 5 operational priorities: infrastructure development, regional integration, private sector, government skills. And then out of each of these, 3 key things are going to be emphasized. The fragile states, it's so easy for Africa to be fragile. All you need is a one drop of equipment and take it for the how do we begin to work? Then agriculture, security, and gender. This is really what the bank wants to do in the next 10 years. But we look at it that across all the sectors, across all this, we need to begin to think about environmental and social sustainability. We cannot do things anyhow. Development and environment are sometimes complicated. So we need to see that we build environmental and social sustainability in this project that we do. I like the conversation we had with Karen, where she talked about natural resources. I've always said this, we missed out on 2 important revolutions. The agricultural revolution came, Africa was not there. Then the industrial revolution, Africa was not there. Now the world is going through an ecological revolution, and Africa has to do on this. Because we have water taxes, we have natural resources, we have a natural capital. This is where we think we need to do things differently. Build the environmental social sustainability is next. And how do we do this? One of the ways, several ways, we have financial sustainability, we have all kinds of things. But for us, we've chosen that safeguard becomes a very important instrument to ensuring that environmental and social sustainability. And many people are confused about safeguards. When we get out to the government, they see me as the project stopper, and the one that stops project, the one that frustrates, the one that delays project, because everybody just wants to build the road and go, build the dam and go, without thinking 20, 30, 40 years from now, what will be the impact of that dam? And the people that should benefit from that are going to benefit from that. And people disadvantaged because of that can then be a part of that process. So that's what we try to do. So it's fair for us, because the current environmental issues are sometimes complex. We try to see, can we avoid addressing that? Where we cannot, can we minimize them together? And no certain NGOs want us to stop on the effects of avoid. And that means we should go back to the Garden of Eden for those of us who are Christians. The way God created us, because He wants to build the house to alter the environment. So that we realize that there are two other things we do to minimize our communities, which is the development, protected, and how do we minimize adverse impact. How do we foster inclusion? How do we support transparency? People have talked about transparency, talked about disclosure of information, serve that field to build. How do we build strong and transparent economies next? So that's what we said we want to do. And how does it show up in our project? Right at the African Development Bank, our project cycle consists of 7 key activities, starting from the country program, where a country decides they want to do development. And what do we do at that point? That is where we develop the strategic environmental and social assessment. Because we need to know the impact of policies. What do those policies do? Sometimes we never anticipate this. We set out a policy. I'll give a very good example. All studies have shown that increase in education increases water use. It's a direct relation. People become more aware of this. But how do you think the people in the Ministry of Education are looking at their education? Are they thinking what kind of idea? But thinking about what it does to us. When we talk about our energy policy, the man of energy policy is not really looking at what happens downstream to the order, to the damage, to the health consequences. So it's at that point that we try to do that upstream. Then we get to the project identification, where we now go to design a specific project. We need to screen that project to determine the level of impact and proportionality. The higher impact will demand more mitigation measures and so on. And if the impacts are so adverse that it doesn't make sense to stop that project, that's it, not economically or environmentally. So at that point, we screen and we categorize the project. Then you get to the actual project preparation. You're looking at designing that project. That's when we do the project concept notes, the readiness reviews, the environmental assessment impact assessment, the environmental assessment that needs to come. So very detailed things are done in to ensure that projects are not just developed and thrown out there without considering anybody. I'm taking time to do this because most people think that don't know how to develop projects. I think the African Development Bank decides somebody says I want to build ports, seaports. And the bank says, okay, this is my 50 million tech. We go through very rigorous studies and assessment. Then we now go to project appraisal. To now sit back and appraise that project. We do all the things that need to be done. When we have seen that it has conformed with our policies, then we declare. I have that privilege of approving that project should be there. So every project that goes to the bank means I have ensured that due diligence and during loan negotiations, that's when we sit with the government and ensure that in that loan agreement, this environmental and social management are actually included. Because when you're not putting the loan, nobody is going to do it because it's not happening. So we try to get that done. And then during implementation, my team is out there in the field to review, to do compliance monitoring, supervision, to ensure that what we said we will do in the environmental and social management are actually being done. Prior to this time, it was very normal to see that when the project is designed, a road project, it's largely the engineer that take over from there. And they keep working. And the environmentalists are the environmentalists are very strong members of environmental and social experts, strong members of the team to ensure that they do the compliance audits to check what they do. Then we then do the post-evaluation as that project achieves what it said it was. So you see, we have a complete set, and the bank puts in a lot of effort into this next phase. So, to be able to deal with these issues, we realized that the bank was not sufficiently placed to address most of the issues that were coming up. We have two safeguard policies, the environment policy and the resettlement policy. This policy is insufficient. New things are coming on. Climate change, for example, is coming. People in Canada. Other important things to the continental diversity. I cannot imagine that biodiversity is not on top of what issues of health, not also there. Level, the same all manner of abusive levels and practices. We've heard people tell me that, you know what, the Chinese are here and they bring business to come in and work, and then when they hire Africans, they make them work and companies and growth and all kinds of things. We have a policy to make sure that we protect our people, protect African economy, protect the environment, make sure that they are not staying. So based on this, there was a need now to develop a different policy, what we call the new policy. We made it an integrated safeguard policy that bring all policies together into one stop, what we call a one-stop shop. So that safeguard policy has four components. The first component is what we call the integrated safeguard policy, which is basically a declaration of what the bank stands for. What forms underlying issues in this policy, what we're committed to do. Then we have operational safeguards. These are the individual policies that what clients are supposed to do and what the bank is supposed to do. Then we have the ESAP, the environmental and social assessment procedures. Having done these policies, we may not know. We then tell how do we take this step by step through the procedures to ensure that we can achieve compliance. The reason being, it is largely the government that will this, not us. It's the government that implements that. So we need to provide the guidance on how to do it step by step. Then we have guidance notes. Guidance notes are methodological and sectoral. If you go to the for example, it's not approach. If you want to do an assessment of dams or where issues of land we want to do. So those are the sort of things. So that's what makes an integrated safeguard system. Next. And some of the policy statements, I won't go too much into detail, they're very spending time. But basically, it agrees that through high operational safeguard that we are going to increase our level of compliance. The bank avoids the accused of not meeting enough. This time we kept it further, and I'm happy to inform for those of you who believe that this has been cited as one of the forefront policies now among sister institutions. It's very demanding, it's very ambitious, but it's something we need to do for the sake of the continent. We have a choice. Africa has a choice. Develop today by whatever things you like and clean up tomorrow, or do it right the first time. We've chosen that we want to do it right the first time. And follow the developmental model that says, go first, develop first, then let's talk about it. So we want to make sure that we comply. Then we're also pushing for the strengthening of auto systems. We do not think the bank should be doing this for a long time. Taking all the responsibilities, strengthening systems within our national governments to those changes. Then we've also included things that we're not there for. We've also talked about project compliance mechanisms. Where in every project that we must need a mechanism to which people can resolve their issues. Where they cannot, they then set it up to independent review panel through the banks, compliance and CRM in the way look at him, he's a very powerful person. He's the one, when you think maybe these projects are not compliant with our policies, that is about to go out. So it's important to see his job is to make sure that this bank's investment does not in any way negatively impact without any investment. Next. So the 5 operational safeguards are basically the first is more of an assessment that will be included climate change. We are the first MDB that has made climate risk screening mandatory. The reason being that we don't have as much money as other regions have. We cannot afford to have somebody tells you, no, there used to be a road in that place. get the less and wash it off. We used to get rich the less and wash it off. We can't have money to declare those things. So we managed and ensured that every project was screened for climate risk until the residents into that. Then compensation is very important to us. We can talk about this forever. Land in Africa is different from land in Europe. The head cannot talk about it. It's different. So when we pay compensation, we pay differently from other entities who operate in other regions. So we have prevention and control, we have labor commission. So those are the 5 policies that we have next. What has changed in these policies? Better coherence. We brought in about 12 different policies into one. They now align better with the bank's operations. And it's clearer now. Borrowers know their responsibilities, and the bank knows its responsibilities. And then we've also been able to address emerging issues that are coming up. GMOs, for instance. So there's a new institution that look at GMOs and then it by name and say, this is a problem. We need to deal with it until we can have clarity on what issues are. Also like climate change. So that's what we're next. Then for the ESA, I've said the environmental assessment procedures will put out quite a lot of steps in helping in being able to implement the ISS steps. Then for the guidance notes, these are the guidance notes. We have several guidance notes on assessment methodologies on specific topics. When we say we are doing free, prior, informed consultation, what does that mean? Unfortunately, indigenous people, which are the one we always push for free, prior, informed consent. And I know it is impossible for me to build a 500 kilometer road that cuts through 500 different nationalities and expect to have free, informed consent. That's impossible. But we achieve what we call broad community support. Once the community has said to support it, that individual cannot stop that. That's what we mean. So next. And here, I'm rounding up. I put up this slide to show where the private sector can fit into our project site. So take a look at it through the country programming, the bank mandates, there should be consultation with everybody, including civil society, screening of the project, and in developing and preparing the environmental and social impact assessment. Then in the review of the SCR and the environmental and social management plans, and all that, we believe that the opportunities for the civil society to be a part of this have next. The opportunities, the bank has decentralized the ones. We have about 32 field offices. If I ask now, how many of you have ever been to any of these offices in your country? Maybe America, how many of you have done it? And we can sit down and complain how the bank is so high and there it's not accessible. You brought it to your country. What else do you do? But people will not go to those that form the opinion. So we decentralize the lot. Please get in touch with the bank's offices in your countries. It's open. Anybody that shows that even like that for entering the office and you're sure that it's called, but please get used to them. Then we have other questions. We have disclosure access to information possibilities we talked about. There is something I didn't mention. We develop what we call integrated set practice. Every project in our company, beginning from the very first commentary till the post-completion report, is being tracked. One repository, archiving, so that anytime 10 years from now, if you call, want to know what happened to that green road in Kenya, it will be that somebody will tell you exactly the information, how it was approved, and what they know. So we put that in there. Then we have the project addressment which we talked about, and then we are insisting, okay, this is the topic. I am insisting, and I keep insisting that the civil society organizations must partner with your government. As long as you remain antagonistic to each other, as long as you think that your competitors, as long as you think these are the devil's brothers, if not fathers or uncles, you will not make the headway. You can, I'm sorry to inform you, it's a government card. It is owned by Africa's 54 member countries. And that is the basic truth. It is owned by Africa's 54 member countries. So I will not see myself approving a project that goes the way of the government that owns the money of God. Don't be antagonistic. You can be a developmental partner with the government, and that's where you can do this. Let them see your value. Let them see how you can help them to get what they need. Finally. So, we've seen the potentials, we've seen the opportunities. The question is, how do we do this in practice? I have said yes, but partner with your government. That sounds easy to say that. Many of you probably are trying to do that, and if at all, let's hear about them. Let's see what we can do to do. Thank you.
Thanks for this presentation. On va passer rapidement sur le programme initial. Est-ce qu'il y a des questions, des interventions qui sont qui nous empêchent de poursuivre la discussion? Si vous avez une question, si vous ne la posez pas, vous pouvez la poser. Juste pour comprendre, souvent il y a des débat pour la question. On continue. Quelqu'un a une question? Ok. My name is Jim Howard, thank you for explaining more about the second system. I think there's also two things in there very positive. Just going back to the theme of substantive society participation. We had a chart there. We saw a role for society to engage in certain places. I'm just wondering if the feasibility of disclosure comes in very stage. How society going to get involved with the other stages? I think we were talking about opportunities to get involved with the environmental systems. The very interesting. So we soon. And then the focus AFGB is probably the only regional line now to indigenous people's policy. I'd just be very interested to hear more about whether that was discussed in your consultation. And where you see that, I think you mentioned the issue briefly, but obviously we listen to the final policy. So just the issue of clarification. Clarification question? Clarification question? Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Number one, challenging me and difficult one of there was around was going on. Mine was quick. On the first slide, on the 4 priority areas, I think you listed it also development, regional integration, private sector development, governance, and skills and technology. I was wondering whether CSO is supposed to be a priority area in itself, since we engaged. So I don't know whether that one has to actually cover us all. We need to do that. Secondly, under the operational state, there's the issue of resettlement and compensation. I don't know how well you enforce this area, because many times people hear about people who have been displaced and about compensation, and then that happens in the project suspended. So I don't know whether you're going to re-emphasize that mistake, or this should be sorted out before you go to place. So we don't get this bad feeling for the genuine projects.
Merci. Il y a des intervenants. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions de clarification? Ok, derrière la chambre. Oui, c'est vrai que je vais procéder à avoir des postes de la partie du site de préoccupation que j'ai. Mais je voudrais une sorte de précision, parce que souvent, on demande la société civile de s'impliquer ou de participer. Et très souvent, on le favorise souvent dans l'évaluation. Mais est-ce que l'évaluation, ça dépend aussi des moyens pour réaliser. Parce que la banque met à disposition de ces organisations qui utilisent la vidéo.
Merci. So I'll go to the progress. If there is any clarification questions about that, is it okay? Okay, so we have the floor, just answer to this question, then we go to our proposals and how can we proceed as CSOs to making clarification question. Okay, we come back to comments.
Thanks so very much. I'll be very quick because I know expecting very lively discussions. Seriousness and disclosure. We insist that documents are disclosed when they are disclosed. And one of the things the CSO should do is we said documents should be disclosed 120 days before audit. Several times the civil society have told us that was 110 days. We did not make 120 because somebody is interested and is watching. In terms of environmental and social assessments, we don't do that. The countries do them. Countries do the assessment. And that's why I said it is important for the civil societies to partner with the country. The partner does not do it. We don't set the policy as a private assessment. We must follow this long-term criteria. If I do not understand why the gentleman was sitting here that says he's the African coordinator on renewable energy or something, you know, I cannot imagine how a consultant developing a project on renewable energy in his country would not move on. That's what we're talking about. Make yourselves let people know what you can bring to the table. There are so many things, institutions are called NGI, non-governmental individuals. Your NGO is just you carrying your briefcase. You're the treasurer, you're the accountant, you're the one doing everything. People work with other level. We need to get support with your government. Indigenous people's policy. For those who were with us from the beginning, he and several others, it's something that was, we had conversations around this continent. We can testify to it. It became a foreign issue. I convened an indigenous people's forum in Tunis to discuss this issue. And what came out of it was it is more divisive than bringing to together. Because we have it in Latin America, and Asia does not mean reality. I am indigenous, but I wear it. And it is a little thing because some people are wearing grass around their waist. It makes them indigenous and are foraging for fruits in the forest. The difference between me and them is because I was exposed to development elementary school. There's a difference between poverty and being indigenous. But people are indigenous are poor and not getting proper means of livelihood and where they are. Then that's very slowly show indigenous income. The largest of countries to the indigenous people's forum are peaceful African countries. Some said we have just won a civil war, and we are trying to build a nation where we bring everybody together. I want to take us back to this 19. Nigeria and my country, we went through 4 years civil war because of this. Ivory Coast, never let the government to be part of this. So what I want to do is in line with the bank's policies, inclusive, let's bring everybody into the program. But we are recognizing the fact that certain people are vulnerable differently. Children in every household are the government. There are some caste systems in Africa, like the Indian caste system, where you cannot own land, you don't get away from everything. Is it that those people are not important? So we want to see how we can bring everybody together, identify what makes you forward, and address that problem, but not to have a specific policy on that. Then for serious priority area, that's very important because governance is important. The CSOs are the link between government and public environment. And we believe that you should be able to strengthen governance in your place, be the watchdog, be the office of the people, you know, and to determine the settlement. Unfortunately, you will not see a very big funded project that has been completed without resettlement. Because we insist the settlement must be done, you give me a certificate that you done it before we do this position. Because we do not want that to. And we also know that there are challenges. Sometimes we are working to see where the ground has settlement work can manage. Settlement will be completed before it starts. Does the package CSO means to, this is the CSO group. She does what to do. And I'm sure she's mapping, she has finished mapping most of the major, not the NGIs, the real CSOs. She's mapping them. And then there is a reason this was mapped to identify who they are, what their operational strengths are, and what they can bring to the table, so that the bank can say how they can strengthen your capacity to do that which you want to do better. Thanks.
Merci beaucoup pour cette réponse. Je pense qu'on peut engager des discussions sur comment faire, de quoi étant connu. Je pense qu'il y a beaucoup de gens dans la salle qui vont participer à ce processus. Je rappelle que la commission des ESC a fait des études indépendantes. Quand le processus a été engagé, nous avons avec Aripina de l'Afrique du Sud, le député qui est dans la salle ici, une partie du tableau avec Maurice Diabo du Kenya pour faire des études spécifiques qui ont constitué la contribution que la société civile a eu pour enrichir les débats aussi bien en termes de contenu que de processus. Donc, je pense qu'il y a un processus qui est en cours. Maintenant, on va aller sur l'aspect de comment faire pour que la société civile, au niveau des pays où la grande partie de l'action se passe, au niveau des régions et au niveau africain, comment la société civile va continuer à mettre en œuvre ces politiques de sauvegarde intégrées dans les différentes dimensions de ça. Madame, vous avez la parole parce que vous avez levé la main pour faire des commentaires. Je souhaiterais vraiment qu'on soit concis. C'est bon que les gens aient vraiment tout le temps de discuter. S'il y a des propositions, des études du cas nécessaires, je pense qu'ils sont les bienvenus.
Because for me, I think there's one concept of make the right thing for sensible engagement, and then you go by protocol with the community. Where usually we say we're going to go by the protocol with the community, who are the people that have been responsible? Most of the people that are very important in the community are my men. Don't have the plan. So there are not enough authorities, and when you say go by community protocol, if you don't bring that precisely say the authorities feel like well, feel like someone with their voices are not heard. Yes, you're talking about sensitive issues that's really profound. If you talk of the dam, if you talk of the water, if you talk of protecting the roads, and they decide to leave the huge road because of the straight lane, it was the people that go by foot army, those of us who live. These children are out the road and and most of the majority of the people that we are here trying to fight for, to raise these policies, make them very so that we also include them, are the people that cannot access to the field. So when we are talking about the safeguards, we should precisely say female and male consultants. And they use specifically. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Don't hesitate if you have any proposal, concrete one, to be welcome.
Okay, thank you for the result. I just wanted to say that seriously in the US, CSO with the traditional. I come from the East African Society in this forum. This is and we are one since both societies. We engage in the East African community. So, integration is core of our mandate. I'm thinking that we already organized, we're doing a lot of activities around. So, this is not new for us. Our members are the key in passing through the biggest credit. And at the moment, we are just doing sort of like consultations at national level with all the partner states to look at the CSOs and the operating environment. Because, as rightly say, that we need to pressure the government. We are seeing a lot of laws that are now taking away the space that the constitution that we see resources. So they're thinking that it seems like the government is shying away from corporate resources. We are ready to go to the support the government. But we want to see this simplicity and good faith that we always understand.
And if you have both sides, and we come back juste un instant, on va regarder le côté de l'ordre, c'est quelque chose.
Just two comments. So there are just two comments. I guess social media is really slow because it is so much time for most of these people. So Seiji Kabori asked a very interesting question. He says, why don't we use cinema to change people's minds about development in Africa? I guess that might be interesting for your department with regards to making people aware of the different safeguards you have in place. Maybe you can use art, film, posters to kind of educate people, and maybe that might help CSOs with relaying that information onto the grassroots. And then another person brings up the issue of the need to identify the different roles of government and international financial institutions. So when it comes to stakeholders, even if an ADP project has safeguards in place, what is the government's stake in that? Or what is their responsibility in making sure that those safeguards are implemented?
Thanks.
Oui, merci. Ici dans le oui, je pense que les études de l'impact environnemental sont vraiment un domaine dans lequel on a constaté l'importance de la société. Il y a deux préoccupations. La première, c'est que, effectivement, la banque elle fait tout sur le terrain. Elle vient, elle a ses équipes qui suivent et tout. Alors, la place du rapport de la société civile, de ce qu'elle a vu sur le terrain, est-ce que ce n'est pas quelquefois en contradiction avec ce que la banque, elle a vu sur le terrain et je n'ai pas compris? Donc, parce que nous suivons en ce moment tous les grands travaux, Longpanga, où il y a justement cofinancement, Banque mondiale, BAD, AFD, etc. Alors, quelquefois, il y a le positionnement, la valeur du rapport de la société civile. Donc, je propose qu'il y ait un mécanisme direct. Hein, que si on a vu quelque chose, on puisse le rapporter. C'est pas comme si on travaille dans ce. Nous avons besoin, nous, d'un canal vraiment précis sur lequel poser nos observations et être sûr que ces observations-là sont lues et prises en compte. Et je peux vous dire que nous avons des gens que ce n'est pas toujours le cas. Donc ça, il y a quand même besoin de transparence dans la manière aussi où la BAC travaille avec nous. À l'intérieur de ce partenariat tripartite, on a quelquefois l'impression, nous avons des exemples où, eh bien, on n'est pas sûr que les analyses de la société civile soient vraiment intéressantes pour la BAC. Donc, moi je pense qu'en même temps qu'on doit effectivement sensibiliser davantage les ONG, les OSC qui travaillent dans les zones où sont mis en place les grands programmes et les grands projets, parce que là aussi il y a une chaîne de travail au niveau de la société civile. Ces organisations qui sont dans l'environnement immédiat, là où sont mis en œuvre, pouvoir avoir un programme spécifique de renforcement pour qu'elles s'impliquent, elles aussi, dans le suivi justement de ce qui est en train de se faire. N'oublions pas que souvent, les autres acteurs ne comprennent pas bien le travail de la société civile. Le travail de la société civile est stratifié aussi. Vous avez de l'accompagnement des communautés à faire avec eux, à prendre, etc. Mais vous avez aussi le travail intermédiaire. Et quelquefois, on n'est pas très bien compris dans la manière dont la société civile travaille. Donc, je propose que, nous ayons un mécanisme clair qui nous permet d'être sûr que nos rapports sont déposés au niveau du gouvernement, mais aussi au niveau de la banque de secteur. Qui va suivre ça au niveau de la banque? On a aussi besoin de ça. Et deuxièmement, on a besoin de renforcer effectivement les capacités de la société civile intermédiaire là, pour qu'elle puisse mieux suivre toute la politique d'inclusivité. Et j'ai une troisième observation, c'est qu'il n'y a que dans ce mariage à trois, généralement, il n'y a que la société civile qui s'occupe du problème du temps. On dit là-bas, on va analyser, un an se passe, nous avons fait une descente sur le terrain, un an se passe, il n'y a rien qui se passe. Il n'y a que la société civile qui dit, mais attention, on avait dit que c'est à tel moment que ça doit être fait, c'est pas encore fait. Mais qui écoute? Donc là aussi, je pense que la base, nous avons besoin qu'elle prenne plus au sérieux le travail qui est fait par la société civile et qu'elle rapporte aussi sur ce que merci.
Merci beaucoup. Oui, oui. Je vais passer le micro. Oui.
Merci. Merci. Je voudrais féliciter la page pour la présentation à nouveau des politiques sociales. Je rappelle que, comme on l'a dit, la coalition a travaillé aussi sur la question pour voir un peu quelles sont les faiblesses de ce document parce qu'il est soumis à la concertation au niveau de toutes les acteurs. Et vraiment, c'est une chose qu'il faut saluer. Mais je voudrais quand même revenir sur quelques aspects qui nous paraissent très très importants parce que, en fait, dans le document, moi, c'est surtout les questions liées à l'égalité de genre. Ce qu'on remarque dans le document de politique de sauvegarde, c'est que autant la CAD met l'accent dans l'OS5 sur les politiques de l'Organisation internationale du travail et intègre conséquemment un mécanisme qui pourrait, en tout cas, prendre en charge les questions liées au droit du travail, etc. Mais autant également, on sent que la CAD passe sous silence la politique genre de la structure alors qu'une politique genre de lycée. Et que je pense que cela aurait été beaucoup plus cohérent de citer tous ces documents-là et même au-delà de la politique genre de la BAC, de viser également les conventions internationales qui engagent les pays. Parce que dans les politiques de sauvegarde, justement, c'est que le rôle du client il est extrêmement important. Et ce qu'on doit demander au client, justement, c'est que dans le cadre d'un accord, ils puissent également souscrire à ces conventions qui sont ratifiées par son pays. L'autre chose également, c'est la mise à disposition de données des agrégés. Je pense que cela aussi, c'est un aspect qui manque souvent avec les clients dans le cadre des politiques de sauvegarde. Je pense qu'un aspect portant sur la mise à disposition de données des agrégés parce que il serait obligatoire au client, serait une excellente chose pour nous permettre d'avancer. La dernière chose, c'est les procédures d'évaluation a posteriori. Je pense qu'à ce niveau, ce serait bien également que les acteurs de la société soient impliqués. Parce que ce que nous avons remarqué justement, c'est que souvent c'est le client qui détermine un peu les acteurs à impliquer dans le cadre de certaines évaluations et dans le cadre de certaines formations. Et cela aussi limite la portée des acteurs de la société civile au niveau du pays.
Merci Audrey. Je ne sais pas s'il y a des propositions non aussi pratiques que la société civile peut faire pour prendre en charge les points que vous venez de soulever. S'il y a on laisse le temps de réfléchir. Qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire justement pour pouvoir amener à apporter des changements ou à suivre et éventuellement évaluer parce que l'évaluation de cette société.
Oui, je pense que ce que nous avions proposé, je vous rappelle, il y a une de ces rencontres où on en avait parlé, c'était vraiment avant, pendant et après les projets. Que les acteurs de la société soient impliqués, sinon, que les acteurs de la société civile, cela va leur demande de proposer un chaque report. Parce qu'à côté des rapports des clients, souvent, on voit que c'est des rapports qui prennent en charge beaucoup d'aspects et que ils ne sont pas malheureusement soumis aux acteurs de la société civile. Donc, je pense que soit il faut les impliquer en amont et en aval, ou bien carrément détacher cela en tout cas de la démarche développée par le client et demander à chaque fois, déjà de nouveau, des acteurs de la société civile.
Merci, Olivier. D'autres contributions en termes de proposition de risque?
Thank you very much. Good presentation. I think for me, two comments and a question. Also participated in the development of the fee and trial, informed consent policy. We're not able to participate in that other aspects. But we hope to engage as we go. I think for me, the issue of CSOs engaging at the country level is really important. And I think it's a challenge for us to actually continue trying to engage despite the space closing. And I'm aware that in some countries, it's really not very easy to engage at the country level and to be able to work closely with government. And I think it's a challenge for us, and it's a challenge for us to find ways to influence and to be part and parcel of the country government. Having said that, I would like to look at the future in terms of the presentation on safeguards. And I saw the cycle that you presented. It was very much at project cycle. And for me, I'm thinking more about the longer term perspective, where you're looking at your strategy as AFDB, as the country's strategies, for example. And where you then start looking at, for example, strategic environmental impact assessments. So that, because for me, when we're talking about projects level, it's a bit too late sometimes. Things run very quickly, and you're not able to either stop or engage effectively. So I think it would be good to also look at a strategic level, how we can actually, work out the issue from a strategic point and longer term perspective. Thank you.
Oui, je pense qu'on va encore être deux ou trois.
Oui, merci, bonsoir, je m'appelle Sylvie Roland. Je représente l'Association nationale d'Amérique internationale de femmes de la PLFDT. Je pense que la question, en fait, je voudrais déjà remercier le présentateur, c'est bien exposé, c'est une image. Je pense qu'il a été relevé ce matin par je ne sais pas qui, cette résolution qui avait été prise en termes de journée contre le journalisme. Je pense qu'il est important de rendre cette résolution opérationnelle au niveau national. Parce que cela, je vérifie pour tous les processus engagés en commun à la femme. La deuxième chose, c'est au niveau de la société civile. Peut-être pour engager également la banque au niveau national, au-delà de la carte, pour avoir accès, peut-être, Madame Andrea vient de dire, peut-être même la société civile, au-delà des idées qu'on de faire pouvoir, pour ceux qui sont dans la proposition, pour ceux qui interagissent avec la banque, pouvoir avoir une organisation propre au niveau national, pouvoir engager efficacement la banque.
Merci beaucoup. D'autres intervenants? Oui, allez-y, madame.
Merci beaucoup. C'est bien que je suis le spécialiste en vente de ce international. J'ai une petite préoccupation. Ce matin, nous sommes en train de parler de la société civile. J'ai comme l'impression que c'est une partie de la société civile qu'on a un peu oubliée. C'est celle qui se trouve dans le pays étranger. Je ne sais pas si vraiment vous êtes capable de pouvoir discuter à ce niveau-ci, à ce niveau des discussions. Parce que aujourd'hui, on va travailler dans les États unis, notamment à Israël au Rocher. Et je me suis rendu compte dans ce pays, cette société civile contre la corruption, c'est ça, n'existe pas. Maintenant, ma question, c'est une petite question de curiosité. Est-ce que cette société civile est concernée par cette discussion? Première question. Deuxième question, c'est oui. Qu'est-ce qui va être écrit pour qu'elle soit? À ce niveau des discussions, et qu'elle puisse aussi profiter de tout ce qu'on est en train de dire. Voilà ma question.
Ok. Moi, je vais juste faire par rapport à ça, parce que ça, c'est une question quand même. Moi, je viens d'un pays fragile, c'est le Mali, donc il est tombé dans le pays de l'État fragile. Je pense que le Niger a une des sociétés civiles, le Niger a une des sociétés civiles les plus fortes en Afrique de l'Ouest. Le Niger, compris, puisque je vais tous les jours, et je travaille beaucoup avec la société civile. La société civile est extrêmement vivante au Niger, ce qui a permis d'avoir tous les changements que le Niger a bien été aujourd'hui à Mali, que les gens ont dit, qui est un pays d'avenir, parce que la société civile a su jouer ce rôle-là. L'avant-garde, aussi bien auprès des hommes politiques qu'au niveau des autres acteurs pour dénoncer tout ce qui est en train de se passer. Donc, je crois qu'il y a un ensemble de travail qui est fait là aujourd'hui avant que la société générale participe au nom des pays fragiles, l'ensemble de la Mamaliba, parce qu'elle était présidente de femmes de la Mamaliba, qui est une société indépendante de l'État. Je pense que c'est une démarche qui là-bas va réagir. Nous avons régulièrement, au niveau de la coalition, engagé la société civile à venir participer aux rencontres sans appui là-bas. Avec les membres de la coalition, on a toujours donné des personnes supplémentaires pour participer à ce événement parce que nous pensons qu'il y a des acteurs de la société civile. D'ailleurs, on qui a participé beaucoup ces années. Et donc, c'est une discussion que nous avons menées pour justement permettre à ceux qui ont pu on peut les temps sans travail pour effectivement avoir du temps. Mais on reviendra sur ça. Je dis juste j'avais deux intervenants et après on reviendra pour le président. On avait chef d'abord le président.
Merci beaucoup. Je suis chef d'année du secteur. Il y a une étude qui dit que sinon, demander à la société civile de se rapprocher de la BAC pour certainement faciliter le travail. Et tout ce qu'on a dit ici depuis le début, la société civile a déjà fait une bonne partie du travail depuis très longtemps de se rapprocher de la BAC. Et c'est peut-être que le problème se situe, à mon avis, dans le fait que la BAC a encore certaines difficultés à stabiliser son approche vis-à-vis de la société civile. Cet espace de rencontre de plusieurs années est un bon espace, certainement. Les idées qui sont choisies de mettre en œuvre. Le problème, c'est peut-être au niveau des pays et des régions que ça se passe plus. Parce qu'à mon avis, l'engagement de la société civile ne doit être assez superficiel quand on reste dans les schémas où on se voit une fois par an, dans des salles comme ça.
Ce qui pourrait donner du contenu, c'est un travail concret au quotidien dans les pays. Et c'est à ce niveau-là que la mayonnaise ne prend pas. Et là, moi, j'ai des exemples extrêmement concrets. Depuis le centre annuel de Lisbonne, où on avait vraiment, dans cette appel, on se rapproche des bureaux de la BAC au niveau du pays. Je n'organise pas qu'une seule rencontre à Dakar et dans la sous-région de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, et on en organise beaucoup, sans inviter le bureau de la BAC à Dakar. Et on ne reçoit pas de réponse dans la plupart du temps. Donc ça, je crois qu'il y a quand même un problème de vision de la BAC à ce niveau-là, parce que la participation de la société civile ne peut avoir, je pense, de la matière. Quand c'est sectoriel, il y a des domaines concrets. Moi, je travaille sur le commerce, je ministre de Centre africain pour le commerce et l'intégration des régions. Et on travaille énormément avec les institutions régionales. Et c'est à ce niveau, c'est avec les États, il n'y a pas de problème, on travaille beaucoup avec les États et les institutions régionales. Il n'y a pas qu'il y a des stratégies régionales d'intégration, il y a des stratégies de commerce. On n'a pas réussi jusqu'ici à faire dans nos rencontres pour comprendre que c'est au niveau national et régional qu'il y a une société civile au quotidien qui travaille, qui a un très bon rapport avec les gouvernements, et que cette société civile-là aussi, il faudra apprendre à connaître et à impliquer dans son travail. Maintenant, juste une dernière chose pour finir, il a dit que l'Afrique a raté la révolution agricole et la révolution industrielle. Il faut qu'elle soit leader dans la révolution agricole. Mais lorsqu'on interroge justement nos réalités, on se rend compte qu'on n'a même pas, nous, en Afrique, fait la révolution agricole et la révolution industrielle. Donc, il me semble que l'approche, c'est de dire qu'on a tout de même la démarche technologique, la très bien planifiée, la bien analysée, avec la nécessaire révolution agricole et industrielle que nous devons faire, que nous n'avons pas fait. Les autres, on pourrait terminer la révolution industrielle agricole. Mais nous, lorsqu'on parle de transformation en Afrique, c'est le thème de l'Assemblée annuelle, qu'il faut vraiment qu'on comprenne l'Afrique de la patrie. Et c'est à ça que nous voulons aller. C'est là peut-être que la BAC doit vraiment comprendre l'intérêt de la société civile, son expertise, et que ne soit pas seulement une sorte de faire-valoir pour dire qu'elle était là et elle a dit des choses. On a répondu à la question de l'existence. On comprend qu'il y a de l'expertise incroyable dans la société civile, notamment au
Merci, chef.
Merci. Je vais encore donner 15 minutes à tout ça, parce que je vais profiter pour répondre à un certain nombre de questions et puis il y a des préoccupations qui ont été levées depuis le matin, et particulièrement maintenant un peu ce que la banque avec la société civile. Je ne vais pas revenir sur l'historique, mais juste pour vous dire que pour ceux qui n'ont pas suivi le processus, que la banque a révélé son engagement avec la société civile dans le cadre d'un cadre d'engagement, un CSO engagement que nous avons adopté en 2012, où nous réaffirmons notre collaboration avec la société civile au niveau institutionnel que nous faisons maintenant, c'est-à-dire la société civile est maintenant partie prenante de nos activités au niveau institutionnel, notamment à travers leur participation à nos forums, mais surtout aux assemblées annuelles, qui sont des assemblées que nous organisons par an pour montrer nos résultats et pour montrer ce que nous faisons et puis ce que nous discutons. Donc, de plus en plus, vous êtes partie prenante de cela. Nous organisons des forums comme ceci, mais aussi vous êtes là pour participer en tant qu'acteur, en tant qu'observateur à toutes les autres sessions. Il y a des forums aujourd'hui, mais n'oubliez pas que vous êtes là et vous devez participer à toutes les sessions qui sont ouvertes au public. C'est votre rôle, c'est pour ça que vous êtes là. Ce n'est pas juste pour ce forum. Et nous collaborons aussi avec, dans la mise en œuvre, dans l'élaboration de nos politiques, toutes les politiques que vous avez vues aujourd'hui ont été élaborées avec la participation de la société civile en amont et puis les thèmes de référence, jusqu'à ce que la politique soit adoptée. Et enfin, dans la mise en œuvre des projets, au niveau des pays, dans la mise en œuvre des projets, nous travaillons avec comme partenaire dans le monitoring, comme ce que vient de dire. Et un aspect important sur lequel je vais insister, c'est la coopération avec la banque dans les pays. Qu'est-ce que la banque fait? On nous a demandé aussi, est-ce que vous connaissez la banque? Parce que c'est un peu facile aussi, comme vous le faites, de parler de la banque, mais la banque est chez vous. La banque est dans 32 pays, avec 3 pays où nous n'avons pas de bureau, nous avons des représentants. Donc nous avons 35 présences en Afrique. C'est beaucoup. C'est un continent de 54 pays. Nous sommes allés vraiment à un niveau de décentralisation et aujourd'hui, nous sommes présents dans les pays. Et comme l'a dit Tony, est-ce qu'il connaît le bureau de pays?
D'accord? Moi, je connais, mais je n'ai pas non plus après les bureaux pays de la banque. Les bureaux pays sont des entités décentralisées qui font ce que la banque fait au niveau central. Donc, c'est votre aussi, en tant qu'acteur de la société civile, c'est votre rôle aussi de contacter les bureaux de voir ce que la banque fait. Parce que la banque, c'est votre banque. C'est la banque des États, c'est la banque des citoyens africains, c'est votre banque. Donc, nous, on a notre rôle de vous informer, vous aussi, vous avez le devoir de chercher à vous informer de nous, surtout que nous sommes proches de vous de plus en plus. Donc, voilà ce que je voulais dire par rapport au pays. Et nous avons initié depuis l'année passée des journées portes ouvertes. On parlait ce matin, je ne sais pas si vous le voyez. Mais nous avons initié des journées portes ouvertes avec la société civile dans les bureaux. Comme son nom le dit, c'est les open days avec la société civile. Montrer ce que nous faisons, qui nous sommes. Nous allons commencer à organiser dans un certain nombre de pays, nous sommes à 8 aujourd'hui. Tous les pays vont le faire sur une base annuelle. Renseignez-vous au niveau de vos pays, vous aurez des informations.
Decide the bank. It is not like go there, you be amazed at all the things you see. We have 1, 2 last year. 77. The US Treasury was 2013 in a row. The only MDP that has won such an award, not because people were sitting in a hall to discuss, but actual projects that are really impacting. So please, I will continue to urge us. I will continue to encourage us. Get involved with the community. See what we're doing, spread the message around. It is so that it comes back to us. So I think that, and then we look at civil society, how do we take on board the comments and the suggestions? I think I've been sincerely telling that anything the civil society writes and gets to take on board and implement it. I've been saying it because we can't. But I want to tell you that Ojigali Dam was stopped because of civil society. They did thorough analysis of the water levels and what the issues would be, and they sent it. And we took it. The same thing with India. We are just starting India now. Civil society organizations, international waters, have done a very extensive detailed assessment, facts and video are presented, which we are also studying to see how can we address the issues of water. You can do something. If you have an issue with a project that you think we did not do a proper evaluation, and you have something else, please don't wait for the bank to tell you, please submit your report. Feel free to submit your report. And that's why first I introduced the young man sitting beside you. Is one person you can talk to. We also have, on the bank's website, we have a place for interactive discussions. What is the situation? Please go to that, type something and you will respond. We don't want this because we don't want people to continue to think that practice. We're on them, and every other person is here, and that it is your institution of work today. I like the idea of using things that similar to educate the public. We've finished the safeguards now, we've finished training task managers in the bank. The next step now is to train government agencies, and I'm sure that we'll try to incorporate this. I have always tried not to speak to journalists because journalists have a very interesting way of saying what you do not say. Somebody has said something on Twitter I never said. I don't think I said that. That is, we are just right here. I'm simply saying, please get involved with your government. It is very important that we do so. The government has a role to play in safeguards. We develop the policies because we think it meets international standards. Where we look at government policies and there's what we call equivalence, we see and say, yeah, your policies match international standards, we let you use the standards. And the environmental and social assessment procedures and the bank's policies give clear guidelines on what the government should do. But who is government here? Will the Ministry of Environment in Rwanda go and sit down and do this here? No, they won't. They will get somebody else to do it. It could be you, it could be McAntony and Sons, it could be anybody. I'm simply saying, if you identify with the government in your movement of socialization, what you can bring, you'll be amazed that countries will use you. We have seen African NGOs submit things that I know is not, because when I read through it, I can tell who wrote it. I've been in this field for a long time. So sometimes you get used as a mouthpiece to stop projects that ought not to be stopped. There are certain international organizations that do not want to hear the word down, irrespective of how you do it, when you do it, the way you do it. This is a continent where over 80% are darkness, where nothing is happening because we don't have electricity, where we are trying to build a grand England to supply electricity, and then you find African civil societies receiving papers from others who have electricity in their countries 24 hours, 7 days a week. And then they tell you stop that thing, and you actually connect that to the group, you write a phone number and something to stop the internet in your own community without any real reason for it. Look at it. If there are issues, we can address them. We can mitigate, we can alleviate those problems. So please let's see how we can work as partners with our countries to bring development to those countries. In terms of gender, I saw the gender envelope coming. Okay, her section is coming up there. She's going to tell you everything about gender. The plan takes gender seriously. In our safeguards, we have looked at assessments where we look at issues that affect women, men, their roles, children, the age. Because we have a very good gender strategy, we have taken gender so seriously that we've appointed a very competent, very well-known international global figure to be the parts on, so that if you don't believe me, at least you believe me. So that's the issue. We're doing quite a lot. I should just tell you about it. I think with that, I'm able to stop here, but let me look at the proposals. Says strengthen your capacity to monitor implementation, yes. Janet has already talked about that. And then that the bank should take CSOs very seriously. I think we should take the civil society very seriously. The only issue I still have is when you go back from here today, how many people who were not in this room would have heard of what we discussed here? What is your constituency? How do you get information to trickle down so that it just doesn't come you? Next year, if we build another group of individuals, same civil society from your countries, we'll still have the same conversation again, and by the end of the day, nothing happens because you are not acting as ambassadors to the constituency. Please help us do that. You are not here representing yourself, you are here representing the constituency. I expect you to take whatever you are discussing here back to your constituency and let the conversation continue. Thank you very much.
Thanks, David. I think that for Obi, you can say that there is a need policy coach fund is a good policy. That's the same that that to I don't think that she said that there was no tender policy, but they have to reference to the policy. The document that said that. So the science management. So
okay, so actually, Twitter has been quite silent. It's a lot of retweeting and just passing the information along. But I wanted to just make a personal contribution with regards to the question of people not visiting the country offices or not knowing about the country offices. I think it might be helpful to have an open house day, or one day, it could be Africa Day, that you choose to have an open house where you invite people to actually come and meet with the representatives at the office. Maybe you share some of the publications and so on, because I know there's an office in Accra that I personally never visited, even though I've always been interested in development. And so I do understand some of the issues that people are bringing on that end. Also, with regards to the data, it was in the disclosure and information access session where it was mentioned that there's a data portal. But as a student, you go first to other multilateral organizations before you go to the ADB data portal, even if you're focused on Africa, which is a big issue. So I don't know if it's a question of more partnerships with educational institutions, or making sure that students can have access and letting them know that it's free access. Because sometimes students think they have to pay in order to access certain information. So emphasizing that the information is free and available.
yes, for you too. So we have to finish.
No, thank you very much. No, Tony has introduced me twice. And I really wanted to make sure that I say two words to all of you. No, it's just a major message that I want to pass across. You'll see, we're going through all the efforts that the bank goes through to develop the product, to make sure that it is responsive and future. And on top of all that, right, what the bank has also done is to establish my office. And clearly, what happens is, we can do it with God. We are human beings, right? Certain things can fall into the cracks. So, if for some reasons, you see that the bank, I call them management, this is how it's called, they fail or they have overlooked certain things. And you think that those things have to be looked at carefully. If you go to them, they don't listen to you, if that's related to my office, you can come to me. I'm the village office, I talk to the board. We are friends when we get meetings like this, we talk, we drink coffee and go out for lunch together. But when it comes to those things, I step on them and step on them. To make sure, again, that the institution will be placed for life to address the issues that is affecting our community. So please, we are all about it is part of the institutional structure to come to make sure that the bank is perceived and is safe, is active as in the responsible manner. Thank you.
Merci, Maître. Je pense qu'on va passer juste pour une session d'avoir une autorité de position avec cette assez rapidement. Je pense qu'il y a eu beaucoup de propositions assez intéressantes par la valorisation des rapports civils jusqu'à l'engagement au niveau des pays. Je crois qu'il a été largement abordé dans les discussions. Je pense que c'est là où les choses doivent se jouer. Quoi qu'on fasse au niveau de l'Europe africaine, si au niveau des pays, la société civile ne s'engage pas de faire avoir le même défi, le même type de réaction par rapport aux différents projets, je pense au plan national. Donc, c'est pas qu'on a parlé de jeux de bord on s'est vraiment à l'aise si ça ne marche pas, parce que c'est quand même une situation de la société civile qui a été à l'instant où on a proposé adopter et puis l'attention de la nation au niveau du c'est une opportunité, il faut qu'on puisse l'utiliser à bon escient. Il y a des initiatives au niveau des pays. Je sais que le chef a déjà parlé de ce qui se passe au niveau syndical. Cela ne manque pas qu'il y a certains responsables du bureau qui vont avoir cette attitude. On s'est appelé bien à Dakar avec l'ancien directeur régional, certaines tâches qu'on avait eues, puisqu'il avait dit si la société civile se comporte comme ça, ils vont fermer la porte. Nous l'avons dit dans la salle, si vous fermez la porte, on va nous payer. Si ce n'est pas votre bureau, c'est votre bureau à la touche. Et je pense qu'à ce niveau-là, il y a des cas spécifiques comme ça qu'on puisse trouver une solution pour qu'on voit ce qu'on s'écoute et c'est dans ces écoutes-là qu'on peut arriver à avancer. Il y a beaucoup d'exemples au niveau des pays qui sont quand même des choses qu'on peut développer. Il y a des pays qui ont des études spécifiques qui ont été prises en compte au niveau national. Le cas du Sierra Leone, il y a quelques années, soit 6 ans, on avait fait venir les représentants de l'équipe au niveau de la région, avec un fonds qui était adressé à deux groupes identifiés aux populations, et la région africaine, des populations qui sont de l'autre, qu'est-ce qu'ils font, et à l'issue des rencontres, là, nous avons dévoilé des familles de documents qui ont été traduits dans certaines langues locales pour être diffusés. Je pense qu'il y a des opportunités sur lesquelles on doit pouvoir travailler. Comme le temps est parti, on n'a pas eu tout le temps, mais je crois qu'on a fait l'essentiel. On va s'arrêter là. L'histoire de la société civile va s'engager tous ensemble au niveau africain. Et ce n'est pas le fait de baiser la balle, c'est de dire à ce que les projets soient de bons projets. Quand on pose de bons problèmes, quand on pose de bons problèmes, on doit pouvoir interagir. Donc, je vais m'arrêter là. On a des sessions de formation pour la société civile exclusivement que nous avons cette année. On en parlera le matin. J'ai vu tous ceux qui sont ici, les députés, on va échanger toute la session de formation de la société civile qu'on peut faire. Merci.
Merci Tony pour cette présentation sur les systèmes de sauvegarde environnemental et social de la banque. Nous avons voulu vous rattraper et vous offrir une pause. La pause est faite, mais l'équipe suivante est déjà là. Donc, je vous demande de prendre 10 minutes de pause parce qu'on a une urgence avant 18h. Donc, s'il vous plaît, la pause est faite, on a fait 10 minutes.
That's where you are.
Je crois que vous avez vu de la force à laquelle les sujets de corps par le partenariat entre la banque et la société pour la mise en œuvre de la stratégie, la nouvelle stratégie genre de la banque, qui est une stratégie, comme vous l'expliquez la littérature, évolution en matière de mise en œuvre de la question du genre dans les actions de la banque. Donc, sans plus tarder, je vais donner la parole à Madeleine sur la modération de la session.
Merci. Mesdames, Messieurs, bonjour d'abord et merci de rester malgré la journée qui a été longue. Nous continuons donc ce dialogue entre la banque et la société civile africaine autour de la question du genre. Comme beaucoup d'entre vous le savent, je vais justement évoquer, dans sa nouvelle stratégie pour les 10 ans à venir, la Banque africaine de développement a décidé de faire de la question de l'égalité homme-femme une question universelle. Tout simplement parce que la Banque est persuadée peuvent investir dans l'événement et tout pour ces transformations de l'Afrique que nous attendons tous depuis des décennies. Et pour vous concrétiser cet engagement, la Banque a créé un nouveau poste et tout nouveau, ça date du mois de septembre, d'un envoyé spécial sur la question du genre. C'est un poste tout nouveau à la banque. La personne chargée de ce poste est chargée aussi de beaucoup d'actions, beaucoup de réflexions, de entre autres des questions de créer, de penser, de forger des fondations solides pour gérer la question du genre à la banque, que ce soit au niveau de la définition des politiques, au niveau de la mise en œuvre de ces politiques, que ce soit au niveau d'élargir le partenariat avec les sociétés civiles africaines, mais surtout arriver à concevoir des politiques et des actions innovantes et concrètes pour que la question du genre ne reste pas une question théorique comme c'est souvent le cas en Afrique aujourd'hui. Ce poste a été confié à quelqu'un qui est ici à côté de moi. C'est Madame Géraldine, je suis Fraser Moleketi. C'est un ancien ministre en Afrique du Sud sous la présidence de Nelson Mandela et de Thabo Mbeki, avant de rejoindre la BAD. Et a occupé au PNUD un poste de directeur de la gouvernance démocratique où il avait la charge de plus d'une centaine de pays. Mais Madame Géraldine Jocelyne Fraser Moleketi, pour ceux qui la connaissent, ce n'est pas un cadre supérieur à la banque, comme les Portugais. C'est une somme d'expérience, une somme de pragmatisme et une somme d'engagement et de détermination. Donc, pour les gens qui sont ici, je pense que vous aurez affaire à quelqu'un qui va concrétiser toutes les décisions. Je l'invite à vous présenter son action. Je vous invite à lui poser des questions, à contester, à protester, à proposer surtout. Merci. Bienvenue, Madame Fraser. À vous poser. C'est pas la première fois qu'on parle de questions du genre à la fin. Mais pour nous, par exemple, pour moi, journaliste, c'est la question du genre, c'est des projets, c'est des financements, c'est des discours qui ne sont pas souvent accompagnés d'actions, d'actes. Qu'est-ce que votre présence change?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Bonsoir. Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I think it's a good question. I'm becoming a special envoy in September last year. Came to the African Development Bank that has had a commitment to the whole area of gender equality and women's empowerment. So what's going to make it different? There was a gender division, there is a gender division in the bank. The bank has had a commitment to mainstream gender in its work. You've heard that presented quite articulately earlier. So what's new? Why should the bank waste money and bring in someone as a special envoy? So I'm here for 3 years. Let me just make that clear. I don't intend staying a day longer than 3 years in this particular position. And this is because, as in the words of President Donald Kaberuka, you bring in a special envoy when you feel normal diplomacy has not done what it should do. And it's when you want extraordinary measures. So that puts a lot of pressure on me. And you can well imagine after 3 years you need a reparation. You don't really want to be a good job like this. So mine is to ensure that there's a discomfort with the levels at which we work. And the bank has worked quite well if we want to talk about the plateau and achieving what we should. You've heard examples where, in instances, civil society was brought in to ensure that the contracts, the projects, the initiatives the banking ventures in has done the required social and environmental assessment. But we need to go further. I am not as young as she is on the way, so I think of myself as someone who's had a particular approach to the portfolio of gender equality. I've been to Nairobi in 1985. I've been to Beijing in 1995. I was in New York in, was it 2000? And we continue that march. There's certain things that we haven't done that we should be doing. And it's not a responsibility only of governments, it's the responsibility of government, the private sector, and civil society. Because if we're moving at the trajectory at which we move, then heaven forbids, 50 years down the line comes 2064, the two of us will be sitting up here again, I think. I don't think so. But we'll have two people sitting here doing a reflection on what should be done more and better. So today, you're not just going to put questions to me, I'm actually going to challenge you as well. Because I think the reason that you come together and the reason that we have this wealth in this room is for us to make a difference. And for us to see what must be done differently. Because we're actually tired of doing things in the same old way. We've moved from women in development to gender mainstreaming. Now we want to move to something else. You know, we think that if we change the name, if we change the approach, but we do the same thing, you know, by putting old wine into new wine skins, we're going to make a difference. As someone said to me yesterday, we've got to think outside of the old boxes. And we've got to think, do things differently. So not enough cliches. Let me raise a few issues. So yes, you asked me what am I going to do differently. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there, but not in 3 years' time. I'm going to get there today. The board adopted a gender strategy on the 21st of January. That gender strategy that was adopted has 3 pillars. The first pillar is legal status and property rights. Now, all of you will say, okay, so what's new? The African Union adopted that as early as 2002. They saw legal status and property rights as quite fundamental to making a change for women on the continent. They went further and looked at the whole issue of land, and they looked at the whole question of land tenure as well. But you see, we all walk the talk, we all talk the talk on the continent. The African Union and the member states, the African Development Bank, and the ECA. But we're still talking the talk, and now we need to make a difference. How? How are we going to make a difference? I think that's what we need to get together. We need to ensure that we put programs on the table that's going to make this happen. And earlier today, I spoke with someone who's involved in the whole issue of looking at land tenure for women. And she said that she's working in Ghana and is looking at whether they can ensure that at least 20,000 women get land tenure in Ghana. Now, maybe I should ask you, Simon, how many women are there in Ghana? Yes. So I think if we look at the no, not 50%, but 50% of what? And if we look at the tenure property rights, so the issue is ensuring that there's property rights. But we've got to make it happen. We can bite it down into bite sizes at the country level. but we also need to take it forward into the sub-regions as well as at the continental level. We also need to support initiatives on the reduction of gender-based violence, but we've said this forever as well. And right now, we have a reality that has captured the international community. The Chibok girls that have been kidnapped. And I haven't heard African civil society as vocal as they should be on this one. I've heard them, but I think African civil society can. Why are we silent? So we're coming here to the bank, but we also need to ask the question, aren't we comfortable with doing things at the pace where we say that we get half of civil society engaged in it, and those of us who work in other sectors are not quite frankly interested, because we think it doesn't speak to our mandate. We've got to look at all issues that relates to rights and see how we link it into the areas that we look at and work on. We've got to take it forward. And mind you, the African Development Bank, the President made a statement 3 weeks ago. There wasn't much coverage given to it, but the President of the ADB made a statement on this particular matter and also spoke about the issue of girls' education and the need to ensure that we protect our girls who get to school, because we also, you say, how do we do it? You know, for every girl who stays in school, we delay early marriage and childbirth.
Yeah, you are not the governments, you don't make rules. I think there are people from my area that can tell you that when people in parliament decided to say something about high marriage, the president didn't stand. So you are now. How are you going to change something about women's violence, about women access to land, when it doesn't exist in most of the West African countries?
Most of the countries that
are you going to create sort of positive discrimination financing or something like that?
we go into the cost of discrimination in financing or impact on conversion rates. You must remember that most of these countries have actually acceded to CEDAW. Isn't that correct? I mean, it's the United States that hasn't acceded to CEDAW, but most African countries have. Most civil society knows that they are members of parliament, and they must go to their parliaments and demand that the legislators take up the issues. So you're not waiting for someone from outside to come with positive discrimination, because we have financing and we can influence this. Let's do what we can do. Let's not give a cop-out on areas that we shouldn't. We've got the Pan-African Parliament. We've got the regional parliaments. There's an ECOWAS parliament, and mind you, the speaker is a woman. Why aren't we banging down the doors of speakers? And mind you, we don't even need to do it as civil society only. We are voters in countries. We have a right to access those parliaments. So can we make it happen? Yes, we play a role in terms of having an interaction with these parliaments. We're going to do it more and more. But at the end of the day, it's also about the active citizenry, because nobody's going to do it for us. We need to do it together. So coming back to you saying, will there be a kind of positive discrimination? You've heard our colleagues speak earlier. I wasn't hearing Simon spoke, so I can't say these people what Simon said. But I think the rest of the colleagues who are in operations, who looks at result management and all that, we will say that we can encourage, we can persuade, we can actually place on the table the fact that we work with regional member states. And that's what we do with things called the CSP. Simon, do you want to talk about the CSP? So that you can just yes.
A question about Ghana. Janet, you're from Ghana. You have Emmanuel Kwesi, who's also from Ghana. So some of the questions raised about Ghana. Yes.
It's about balance. I can give you the statistics, but it's not.
So how many do you have in Ghana against the population numbers?
How will the towns win?
It's women slightly more than
Population numbers, I believe they should know, at least they're in the range.
we are not yet maybe by now 25, but at that time we were about 24.5.
So 12 million women.
Yes, it could be.
It's a large number of women. We'll come back to that one. You're on the CSP.
It essentially works around what we do in the African Development Bank. We operate what we do to support the greater gender equality. We operate at very different levels. First of all, we feel we have a responsibility within our own organisation to make sure that we have more staff, and in particular we have more managers. So what we've done is we've identified 2 indicators to track our performance, to make sure that over time we increase the number of women staff and importantly the number of women managers in the bank. The target isn't very, I would say, exciting because we're starting from a very low baseline. It takes time to put things up. But that's one thing.
Because I'm very concerned that there is we want to say something. If you move to the next question.
Sure, let me move on quickly. Then within our operations, we fund a lot of activities that improve the lives of the people and improve the lives of women in particular. When we build roads, for example, it's not a pleasure of building roads. What roads does makes it easier to be able to go to hospitals, go to schools, get education, open your businesses, there are many things it does. And it's important.
But Simon, those women aren't only those businesses, they're even small businesses selling tomatoes on the side of the road. And all of us women in this room actually want to own the big infrastructure companies that are regional companies, not only the company in Ghana itself. So tell me how you're going to make that happen. How's the road going to make us ensure that every business is not just something for women on small crops?
This is what we want to listen, but I think touch by I'm unfair competition. I'm asking questions in French.
It is gone.
Yeah, you continue. Operations, the main things that we do is different ways, the structure, and of course we want to hold women to be owning big businesses, not owning the small shops on the streets. But another thing that's very important, just as very practical, this is the operation. When we design our operations, we say we need to consult them. But often, the way this is interpreted is people say, well, let's consult the men, they know the answers to all these questions. But in fact, they don't. Particularly when you're building a road, the people that really know parts of the road that get flooded, parts of the road just don't work in particular seasons, etc. It's a women more than men. So one of the things, in practical terms, that we're doing is making sure that we appropriately consult women as we think about the operations, not out of the goodness of heart, but because we think that ultimately we'll design much better, much more effective operations to do what we need to do. That's another thing. Sorry.
Okay. So now I wanted to ask Geraldine, because you mentioned one of the demands which is what is the legal status and the property rights, which is a very serious issue. But what else?
Women's economic empowerment. Now, you know, the reason I think that to Simon was you say to me, what will I do that's different? And it's precisely what I did to Simon now. That's done across the bank. So I wasn't doing that to challenge. That wasn't inside the trading here. It's just saying it's about engaging and creating a sense of discomfort in the bank about doing things the way we do. And if I just told you that, you wouldn't believe me, but by this engagement, you see that we do it within. Economic empowerment is the second area. And on economic empowerment, here we want to ensure that, two big areas where there's money in the bank is in our infrastructure complex, and we say we want to follow the money there. We want to make sure that women and young people, because this is not men, women and young people must have increasing access to and control over financial resources and services. So we need
to work with the government. Yes. Not to deal directly with the population. How are you going to follow this economic empowerment for women? If the government doesn't have the same ideas of that.
You just said earlier that I've come from government. And I think any self-respecting government would want to engage the majority of their population. Because at the end of the day, when we talk about inclusive growth, we're talking about engaging every part of your population. Secondly,
when they have no sense, we tell them they have other priorities. So I can give you next.
No, but that doesn't help me. You want me to be candid and then you don't want to give me names of that, because that's the only way we'll tackle it. But let me just say, on the matter of they may not be that interested to do it. There's a Manu River Union Secretary General who's here. She was here earlier today. The Manu River Union has a multi-million project that covers something like 4 countries. That's a huge electricity and infrastructure project. We say at the end of the day, that project is not just to stimulate the private sector, it's also about job creation. It's also about involving the local population. And here we need to look at human capital development. We need to ensure that the countries involved, that the young people are trained up at universities. We need the electricians, we need the fitters and turners, we need the engineers, because at the end of the day, at the end of that project, the maintenance of those projects need to continue, and we need the indigenous capacity to do that. You have the Horn of Africa. There's a drought resilience project on the Horn. That Horn of Africa project is a 15-year project. This is an opportunity for us to ensure that the local communities are engaged. And again, it's about stimulating the private sector locally in the country. You agree with me? Financial inclusion is the other area that
I wait until it is done.
Financial
I'm not older than you. I have had so many promises like this. I really want to.
But that's why we have the history of the Manu River Union in this room with CSOs. Because what we want to do as a difference is not just promises. I'm not running for election here. I'm not running for an election, so I'm not making a big promise. I'm simply trying to look at how we can turn this into a reality. And for that to happen, that's where the measurement of results come. And there's been a discussion of that earlier this morning. We're also talking about transparency, and that's the role of civil society. We're going to create, we're also having knowledge products to take it forward. But I think I should sit down, but I don't want to sit down without saying one last thing, because we want to broaden engagement. And maybe that's not the moment. Maybe it must be like, no, you didn't want to mention the president, I'm not going to mention the president.
I'm not. I was supposed to moderate in French.
I think the last thing that I want to say is that we've got to ensure that we develop the human capital of the population of Africa. Women, girls, boys, key to that. Unless we invest in that, we are not going to be the Africa we want to see in 2064. We can't do this as well if we go at a pace that we're comfortable with. We've got to do it faster, we've got to do it better, we've got to ensure that we make an impact. We've got to measure our impact, and we need to be patient about what must be done. We shouldn't be apologists for those who are not doing what's required. As a matter of fact, we must insist that African leaders in governments, in civil society, and in the private sector have a responsibility to inclusive growth. We need to hold them to it, because other than that, it will sound as though I'm running for elections, which I'm not. Thank you.
Thank you. Je reviens à ce français. Donc, pour résumer les trois domaines prioritaires dans votre nouvelle stratégie, il y a tout ce qui concerne la propriété, l'accès à la propriété pour les femmes. Tout ce qui concerne le domaine économique où la banque va contribuer à augmenter la capacité des femmes de pouvoir. Alors, l'aspect économique et enfin l'aspect formation qui sera aussi vital pour les femmes. Là, c'est ce que la banque propose. Je pense que nous aurons l'occasion de rentrer dans les détails avec les questions, mais la société civile aussi a quelque chose à proposer. Moi, j'ai quelque chose à vous dire pour la société civile. Nous sommes tous ici. Nous suivons ce qui se passe au Nigeria. Moi, quand je quittais Paris il y a 2 jours, tout le monde était mobilisé. Bring back our girls. Je suis arrivé en Afrique. Je ne vois aucune mobilisation. Encore une fois, quelquefois j'ai l'impression que la question du genre est reléguée aux ONG occidentales. Je pense que la société va prendre la parole et nous expliquer ce qu'elle fait. La parole est à vous. Est-ce que vous voulez poser des questions, faire un commentaire? Monsieur?
Oui, je fais déjà des interventions. C'est Théodore Fonzanza, président de la société civile RDC. Je pense que vraiment c'est là remercier l'intervenant. Vous avez dit une chose qui nous préoccupe tous. Mais je voudrais aussi signaler que sur ces problèmes déjà, il y a, si maintenant ça marche pas aussi vite, il y a des personnes qui pensent que la stratégie déjà concerne une égalité mathématique conforme. Plus particulièrement, en majorité d'elles, ce sont les femmes qui sont dans des milliers rurales qui ont cette mentalité. Parce que même quand ils sont en action devant un problème avec un garçon fille pour aller à l'école, elles disent tout de suite à la fille, on n'a pas de moyens, maman peut dire, puis ça va épouser, et c'est votre frère qui s'achète des familles pour continuer. Alors, comment est-ce que nous savons qu'il s'agit des droits juridiques de la femme? Et c'est cette loi qui est réellement une amélioration et inédite même pour les femmes, non pas quelque chose de hasard. Et je pense que c'est là où la société civile, à tous les niveaux, doit surtout insister et faire passer les messages seulement pour moi, parce que je vois qu'il ne s'agit pas d'inégalité mathématique. Les femmes qui ont été et à qui on veut donner plus de droits au même titre que les hommes. La dit tout à l'heure, il a été un exemple du Ghana. Alors, ce titre foncier ou quoi, ce n'est pas seulement les hommes aux hommes, mais c'est aux femmes. Mais il faut aussi que les femmes se montrent capables pour les avoir, parce que j'ai dit là, une guerre là, la plupart des femmes attendent comme si c'était un bénéfice, une faveur, alors que c'était un droit. C'est ce que je voulais surtout souligner pour voir, surtout à ce niveau-là, la société civile, la société civile, qu'elle s'implique vraiment pour la population locale, qu'elle puisse arriver à changer la mentalité. La mentalité qui aujourd'hui se voit parce qu'il y a un nombre qui pense encore que le problème déjà là, c'est un problème d'égalité hommes et femmes, alors qu'il ne s'agit pas exactement de ça.
Ok, je crois que j'arrive à.
Thank you very much. I think those were very important points that were raised, and I want to take up some of these issues. It is a mathematical thing. I don't think we are approaching it as a mathematical issue. But the reality is that we're talking about more than 50% of the population. We've seen very recently, and let me speak about, let me talk about Nigeria, and talk about Nigeria and agriculture. In the area of agriculture and food security in Nigeria, the overall labor force in the agricultural sector, 2/3 of that are women. Women contribute, and the agricultural, sorry, no, I got it wrong. 2/3 of the labor force in non-oil areas in agriculture. 40% of the GDP comes from agriculture. Now let me step back from Nigeria. We know that when it comes to the agricultural sector, for agriculture and food security, generally speaking, up to about close to 60% of women are involved in the agricultural sector. There's also evidence and data that shows that if you give women greater access to productive assets in agriculture, you can automatically increase production by 30%. So it makes good sense, good economic sense, good food security sense, if you ensure that women have access to productive resources. Now for me, it seems to be that are we being realistic about doing maths around it? I think we need to do the maths. But we also need to do the math differently and see how we keep the girls in school. Because there's also an adage that says, if you educate a woman, you educate a nation or a community. If you can educate the boy, you generally just educate a man. Maybe it's good, he's a good man, he marries someone and he puts off his family very well, and hopefully he puts his girls and boys in school. But what we're interested in is how do we ensure the kind of investment back into community and nation. Are women waiting to be liberated? I don't think so. I think women has walked this path for a long time, really fighting for their equality. But we don't want to do it alone because we're not doing this as a battle against men. It's for the equality of society. So men and women together should look at how we take this battle forward. Because we're looking at an investment that will contribute towards transforming Africa, transforming the African economy, resulting in the inclusive growth. So come tomorrow to the session at 9:30 on gender dividends and listen to us take this forward further. And no, the women won't hang back, but women do need the support of men who understand this battle. Maybe I should hold on at this point.
Oui, madame.
venir sur les différentes informations, vous posez la question à la d'accord. D'accord? Non, non, c'est pas vrai. C'est madame.
Merci beaucoup. Je voudrais d'abord féliciter madame pour son élection à ce que sont vraiment honorés. Je pense qu'elle nous a présenté là une mission qui est vraiment de transformation humaine. Mais je voudrais quand même là de prendre le temps. Elle a parlé de la croissance inclusive. Je voudrais quand même attirer l'attention à ce niveau. En termes de qu'est-ce qui va être fait. Parce qu'on a rappelé, c'est vrai que la base, c'est quand même un sujet étatique. C'est-à-dire, bon, les États membres, pour la société civile. Qu'est-ce qu'elle a prévu au cas où les engagements ne sont pas toujours respectés par l'État en matière de je voudrais à ce niveau-là rejoindre une collègue ce matin qui a parlé des rapports, des mécanismes de communication, d'information. Moi, je voudrais demander également à madame, qu'est-ce qu'elle a prévu comme mécanisme de communication et d'interaction? Nous ne sommes pas travaillés avec le gouvernement, mais parfois, on n'a pas toujours des possibilités. Je voudrais quand même rappeler précisément. En ce moment, je sais que la société civile peut donner des rapports sur certaines questions de façon pointue, sans état d'âme, ce qui n'est pas toujours le cas du gouvernement. Donc, qu'est-ce qu'elle a fait pour avoir cette information? En ce moment, pour la première fois, il y a la MISA, la mission de soutien à Centrafrique, qui a pour la première fois dans l'histoire du Cameroun bénéficié de la présence des femmes dans le contingent. C'est la première fois dans l'histoire du Cameroun. Mais simplement, il y a quelques jours, parce qu'une femme de ce contingent à RCA a commis une faute, c'est toutes les femmes qui ont été rencontrées. Donc, je voudrais savoir quels sont les mécanismes qui arrivent de toute faciliter l'accès à l'information qui est pas toujours le programme de
That's what you come.
Non, je vais répondre à la question de donc, quel mécanisme nous avons mis en place? D'abord, comme je l'ai dit, nous avons déjà des interactions au niveau des pays. Avec la société civile. Ce que la banque fait, quel mécanisme d'information nous mettons en place avec la société civile, c'est déjà au niveau des pays. Je ne parle pas de nos sources d'informations qui sont du website, nous postons toutes les informations. Et comme vous l'avez dit ce matin, le minimum d'informations qui n'est pas publié. C'est-à-dire, on a passé on est maintenant allé à une visionnage de l'information. Donc, nous informons sur ce que la banque fait. Mais au niveau des pays, c'est des informations sur ce que la banque fait. Avec ce que nous faisons, et de toute façon, on demande, on interagit avec la société civile dans une définition priorité à l'église. Donc, en matière de communication, par rapport à la société civile, ça va engager sur ce terrain pour faire connaître l'information de ce que nous faisons. Mais maintenant, effectivement, c'est ce qui se passe dans les pays, dans les situations particulières des pays. La banque n'est pas directement responsable par rapport à ça. Donc, pour votre question, c'est par rapport à un cas précis, qu'est-ce que la banque, par rapport à une situation qui est donnée, comment vous pouvez interagir directement avec la banque? Mais aussi, c'est une question très ouverte, ce n'est pas concernant seulement la banque, c'est comment nous interagissons avec les partenaires. Ça, c'est une question qu'on revoit par exemple à la société civile. Comment vous interagissez avec ces différents partenaires, particulièrement la banque aussi, pour demander les informations? Parce que nous sommes ouverts, nous avons les bureaux, nous avons aussi directement nos informations de la banque auxquelles vous avez accès. Mais comment vous aussi utiliser ces informations?
You want to pursue it further because you're not quite satisfied. Yeah.
Thank you very much. To answer the question, for the first part of the question was not the issue. Because I know how the bank inform us about what's going on. My question is, like when somebody has the money, there are certain situations where you really need to get back to you. But because it's a state institution, of course, sometimes you rely more on working. So how do we ensure that sometimes you get the proper information, because we have the right information from civil society? I don't know whether it's clear. Because in the money she rightly put it, sometimes the report are from the state. There are some burning situations that are here. And because sometimes our reports are not always very important or sensitive to account, no, they can have information. We are not saying that the state is not okay, no. We are talking about how efficient we can be interacting with you to ensure that all the situations that women live in council are taken to you as the situation involved.
Like, so be careful of what you wish for. You see, because if it's about everything related to women in countries, as the special envoy of the bank, I think I'm quite honored that you consider that you can bring everything to me. But I think my focus is from the perspective of the African Development Bank. And as I said, in areas of three priority areas around economic, the economic empowerment pillar, around the pillar of property rights and legal status, and looking at knowledge management. But I want to stretch what you said further. We're in the process of developing a platform that we want to ensure allow women on the African continent to speak. We're going to call it Women Speak. We're still in the process of developing it. We're hoping that this platform will be one that will allow a large percentage of African women to be able to access information on the area of the work of the bank, and that's financial inclusion. But secondly, also to allow feedback and interaction. Now, if we talk about the percentage of women on the continent, let me give an example. If we were to say that we want to reach 25% of African women, that platform must be able to reach 25 million, sorry, we want to reach 5% of women on the continent. That platform must be accessible by 25 million women. Is that possible? Yes. That's possible through mobile communication, cell phones, mobile phones. We know across the continent, parts of East Africa, West Africa, Southern Africa, many people are using cell phones, mobile phones, for banking, to get information about market prices and all that. So we need to use this in order to communicate. We also know in parts of Southern Africa, it's even used for people to be reminded to go and get their medicines, whether it's TB medicine or HIV and AIDS treatment or anything else. So we're saying that we must also use smart technologies to allow for this interaction required. Because I think we all agree that if we want to move, we can't work with today and yesterday's technologies. We leave the young people out. The young people won't be interested at all. They want to go on Twitter, they want to go on Instagram, they want to go on Facebook and all. And we need to look at that platform. Now, how do you get communication to the bank on information about projects? I thought that was what the first session was about this morning, where we're looking at greater accountability. And for us, it's to ensure that the platform you have is correct. If it's not, I would suggest that you put recommendations on how we can improve the interaction. Generally, there is consultation, not generally, in all instances, in the development of projects. There is the assessments that are done on the ground. And we bring in, doesn't only involve government, it's also civil society and the private sector. And we need to ensure that those assessments are effectively done. These are the environmental assessments, the social assessments. We're also looking at gender analysis on that, but we need to do it in a way that is practical feedback. We also say, so if one of them makes a mistake, do they need to return the whole contingent? Now, I'm not in the peacekeeping area, but I would say generally speaking, no. But however, because women are in the smaller, in the minority, you are bound to get that kind of action. Simon, and I'm talking about very different examples, Simon spoke about recruitment of middle and senior management. Very clearly on that, we say we're not going to recruit at the levels required unless you constitute panels differently. You're not going to have peacekeeping forces think differently unless you constitute that the thinking at the hierarchical level in a different way. You know, so we need to do this differently. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to ask about it? Welcome, Professor. So it's a long time since I've seen you here.
Thank you. Ok, on continue avec les questions. Avec les questions. Oui, monsieur.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Speak louder. I think the matter Speak a little bit louder. And introduce yourself to the people.
I work in the youth writing organization for you. And this is one in the civil society, one of the people. The question is about the family planning. How far has the plan for the issue of family planning? For example, family planning here in Africa, the process of Uganda, you must produce like 3 children. But other household get married and has to produce like too many children and he has a potential. Now, how far the African plan government going to that project?
Firstly, I want to welcome Professor Soyer, the former president of Liberia. He is also someone that has been part of the African peer review mechanism and been one of the people who've done a review of South Africa and South Africa. Yes, but I want to just talk about this particular question that was raised. The African Development Bank does not specifically work in the area of reproductive rights and reproductive health. We've done that through other projects and with other agencies, including working with UNFPA and so on. This is what we've done. We do realize that you cannot do development without being holistic about it. And hence, as we engage in projects, we should take it forward. You stopped short when you spoke about too many children. You also did not talk about child rights. You didn't talk about many wives. and so on and so on. So these are all issues that need to be tackled, but I trust that as a young man, that you will take this forward, because this is not just a matter for women to tackle, it's a matter for women and men to handle, because at the end of the day, we know that unless we look at the environment in a sustainable way, we can't talk about sustainable development and inclusive growth. We need to ensure that we have an engagement that takes all this into account. Thanks.
Merci. Il nous reste exactement 11 minutes. Je demanderai aux intervenants d'être très très brefs.
Okay, we're going to just see what's happening on social media. So quick.
As I need to do an apology, I made very much like someone else. I'm completely confused. I'm sorry, I made an apology. I must make an apology because I thought you were Professor. Sorry for a minute.
We got permission to come and say, because Professor and myself,
yes,
and the Senate President of South Africa, which you handle perfectly well, presenting 5,000 visionary to your population, and we, with leadership,
yes, that's right, yes. That's right. So I got part of it right.
No, you are not.
I was 100%
So, Monsieur Babacardia, ancien président de la Banque africaine de développement. Mais on va continuer, on vous passer la parole. Je crois que vous avez quelque chose à dire à la société ici présente, puisque vous faites partie des sages.
Okay, so we're just going to check in real quick with social media. There's been a lot of activity, as you can see from there. I'm just going to read a couple of tweets. So we actually have a very active young man from Senegal who says that vision and leadership, inclusive governance, and economic patriotism are engines for structural transformation. So we should focus on that with regards to the gender strategy as well. And then there's Mariam Diao, also from Senegal, who says for her, women are the foundation, and the bank should invest more in the empowerment of youth and women to create favorable conditions. By favorable conditions, she talks about microfinance, investing in microfinance, as it is necessary to transform the financial sector of the continent. Another tweet from the microfinance organization FDEA, which is also based in Senegal. It seems like Senegal really likes this topic. They asked les femmes, oui, mais quel mécanisme? Pour nous, c'est la microfinance de proximité, trouver des sites dans les villages. So also very strongly talking about the importance of bringing it to the grassroots level. And with regards to young women and what their challenges or what their impressions are, I think very clearly it has to do with education and employment. And I think those are the key challenges that many young African women face, and being recognized for their expertise as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Madame, je vous passe le micro. Il marche?
Oui, merci. Je suis Christine Adela Cameroun. Je voudrais revenir à quelque chose de plus terre à terre par rapport à la question qui a été posée par Madame l'envoyée spéciale. Comment est-ce que la commune invite à la société civile pour s'engager avec elle? Et je prends simplement la question de l'accès à la propriété. C'est ça qui m'intéresse pour mon intervention là tout de suite, la question de l'accès à la propriété par les femmes. Je crois que
rapidement,
mais il y a des questions qu'il faut se poser quand on aborde des sujets comme ça. Accès à la propriété pour les femmes, où et pourquoi faire? Cette question peut paraître anodine, mais où et pourquoi faire? Ça nous introduit immédiatement dans les questions de loi foncière dans nos pays et dans les implications
entre, d'une part, les lois foncières qui sont modernes et la gestion familiale ou bien culturelle de la terre par les chefs coutumiers, etc. Et donc, ma proposition, c'est la société civile peut faire effectivement un bon travail, d'ailleurs elle le fait, premièrement d'abord en sensibilisant ou en discutant et en instaurant un dialogue au niveau des communautés avec les leaders traditionnels, et deuxièmement également en instaurant un dialogue pour les questions d'harmonisation entre les lois modernes et la prise en compte des dispositions qui sont dans les lois coutumières. Et je termine là-dessus en disant, pas dans beaucoup de régions, mais dans certaines régions, il y a désormais des traditional rulers, des chefs traditionnels qui sont des femmes. Et ce n'est pas, ça peut être inutile de tenir compte de cette nouvelle catégorie justement de femmes aujourd'hui, qui sont devenues des chefs traditionnels, j'en suis une, et qui travaillent donc directement, sur cette question. Et bon, je peux vous donner mon expérience sur tous les procès fonciers, justement, en quelques temps, j'ai déjà pu régler dans ma communauté. Merci.
Merci. Demain, on aura plus de temps, on pourrait réagir là à ça et donner votre expérience. Merci.
Thank you very much. For the part that I got the translation on, there's something wrong with the equipment here. I want to say that I'd like to be able to speak with you. Traditional leaders involving traditional authorities, absolutely. We've got to do it with them. At the end of the day, our success is by ensuring that we involve everyone. But maybe, and we're probably close to running out of time, I think the one thing that we do not want to do is make an assumption that we should go at the pace of the lowest common denominator. We need to have champions that are going to lead and take things forward. Because if I can use an example, and let me just do that. If we were going to wait for South Africa to be ready, and every South African to believe that democracy is necessary and that we must build a non-racial society, we have not celebrated 20 years of our democracy. We very clearly said that there's a need to effect the change required. Just as it took courage to tackle what was considered quite an indomitable regime, to make the change required, and we had the support of all of Africa. We had international solidarity and support. It was only then that the change was possible. So we needed to have catalysts. Let's have, with the agenda of gender equality, let's involve everyone. Let's have all partners. So let's have the traditional leaders. Let's have the religious leaders. Let them speak from the mosques, the synagogues, and the temples, the churches. Let's have everyone involved. And those who have experience, share that experience so that we don't walk the same road we walked. Because at the end of the day, we must learn from the lessons that are there, understanding the different contexts. So thank you very much, and we commend you for what you've done. Because as was said by someone else, we stand on the shoulders of those who come before us. And as in many instances, and you were very generous, Madame, if I understood you well, they say women talk about their achievements, men talk about their potential. Let's talk about the potential change we need. Thank you.
Dernier intervenant, just oui, derrière madame, ça fait un bout de temps, oui. Lady over there, you. Be short, oui, c'est bon, ça va très bon. Présentez-vous, s'il vous plaît.
Je suis Odile Faïd du Sénégal, je représente la coalition Travail sur la base. Je voudrais féliciter Madame l'envoyée spéciale, mais également relever un aspect qui me paraît important. Et vous l'avez posé, la question des filles au Nigeria, de retour du fondamentalisme dans toutes ses formes, en Afrique, Parce que la question de l'égalité de genre ne peut être expliquée du contexte socio-culturel de nos pays. Et nous avons remarqué que depuis un certain temps, la question, le débat, se focalise autour des droits des femmes sur le continent africain. Quand on prend par exemple l'espace CEDEAO, c'est l'espace CEDEAO qui présente le plus de menaces sur le continent africain. Au Sénégal, nous avons une loi sur la parité. Maintenant, on se retrouve dans beaucoup de difficultés parce qu'il y a une communauté religieuse qui ne veut pas de cette loi, qui ne veut pas l'appliquer dans ces espaces de décision. C'est pour dire que les résistances sont énormes et que je termine là où notre sœur du Cameroun a terminé pour dire simplement qu'il faut l'implication de ces décideurs et de ces leaders d'opinion, mais également des leaders religieux. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, on ne peut pas faire, on peut autonomiser les femmes. Mais si elles évoluent dans un contexte patriarcal, dans un contexte en tout cas avec un fondamentalisme très manifeste, moi je pense que nous allons faire beaucoup d'efforts. La banque va mettre beaucoup d'argent, mais le statut de la femme ne changera pas en réalité.
You know, this is not a new issue. Patriarchy, religious challenges and all, it's always been there. There's a lot of literature around it. Let's draw on the literature available. Let's draw on the practice. We also know that radicalization, we see creeping across the continent, and that is a challenge because it's taking new forms. But I think it's also clear that Muslim women and Muslim men must come out and say that this is not the Islam that we know. This is not, and I think I want to make it clear, we're not just talking about Islam, we're also talking about fundamental Christianity. Because right-wing tendencies on either side come together and they create a problem. Let's look at what has been done to date and let's build on it. Let's not imagine that we're reinventing the wheel. Now, this is not necessarily an area for the African Development Bank, and we're not going to take it on as an issue. But we're also not going to shut ourselves off to a reality that's there in broader society. And that's what we need to do, because at the end of the day, the African Development Bank, as the lead development financing institution on the African continent, will say that in our commitment to transforming Africa and the African economy, our commitment towards inclusive growth, we will not tolerate discrimination in any form. And we need to play our roles in all sectors to take it forward. We can't say it out because it's not our mandate, but we won't lead. Others will lead the charge. Thank you.
Merci. Je prends une dernière ou un dernier intervenant. Alors, il y a la dame en rouge, il y a Madame Sarah Ndaraba aussi qui voulait parler, il y a Monsieur Dial, Madame Fraser, vous avez un rendez-vous. C'est bonne qualité.
After 5:30.
Thank you. Yeah. You have 1 minute, 2 minutes?
I've got a minute. I've got 1 minute.
Okay. 1 minute.
1 minute.
2 minutes seulement, madame.
1 minute. Merci. Merci beaucoup, madame. Je suis très contente de voir que là-bas, mais un accent particulier sur la propriété. Parce que là, je vais donner l'exemple du Niger. Si vous prenez la région de la nature du Niger, c'est une région qui l'année dernière a eu un excédent de récoltes. Et en même temps que la région a eu des récoltes excédentaires, à côté de cela, le taux de malnutrition a augmenté de 40%. Pourquoi? Parce que les femmes n'étant pas propriétaires, les récoltes ne leur appartiennent pas. Toutes les récoltes ont été vendues au Nigeria à côté. Donc, si cette question de propriété est vraiment mise en application, je pense qu'il y a beaucoup de choses qui vont changer. D'autre part, je voudrais aussi féliciter, je pense que c'est elle qui a parlé de l'implication des leaders communautaires. Nous avons essayé au Niger, parce que j'étais au Niger pendant toute l'année, je viens de terminer ma mission au Niger. Nous avons essayé de travailler avec les leaders communautaires et les régions dans lesquelles nous avons travaillé avec les leaders communautaires, nous avons pu voir des résultats immédiats. Nous avons pu voir qu'on a commencé à accepter que les filles aillent à l'école, on a commencé à accepter que les enfants puissent avoir un petit œil regardant sur les récoltes, même si on ne leur donne pas la totalité des récoltes, mais au moins qu'elles puissent avoir suffisamment de réponses pour nourrir la famille. Ce n'est pas déjà grand-chose, mais c'est un petit pas qui commence à être fait. Donc, vous comprenez que si on veut vraiment faire quelque chose, il faut que... Et quand je parle de leaders communautaires, ce n'est pas seulement les hommes, il y a aussi des leaders communautaires femmes. Pas seulement des chefs coutumiers, comme elle disait, il y a aussi les matrones du village, elles ont un grand mot à dire dans leur village. Merci beaucoup.
Madam, the president has instructed me to come to Niger, so you will be there when I come there. Let me just stop on that note. And this was based on the mission early this year that involved the Secretary General of the UN, the President of the World Bank, and President Kamaruka. So I know that our colleagues who are working in that region will make sure. So we won't just talk, we'll practically engage on this matter.
Merci Madame. On va être obligé de clore cette séance. Je rappelle seulement les grandes lignes entre les propositions. En tout cas, les trois domaines prioritaires que la BAL a proposé, que ce soit en ce qui concerne les lois foncières pour les femmes, l'économie avec le soutien à la production pour les femmes, la formation, le renforcement des capacités, rencontre finalement pour réaction dans la salle, mais aussi sur les réseaux sociaux où on parle de microfinance, donc des choses très pragmatiques. Le financement, l'éducation, l'emploi, et c'est ça la propriété qui est un véritable défi, aussi bien pour la BAL que pour la société civile, parce qu'il n'y a que vous, société civile, qui puissiez faire avancer les choses. Pour conclure, je vais demander aux sages, parmi les sages, le président Babacar de dire un dernier mot.
Merci beaucoup, Madeleine. Et très honoré d'avoir parmi nous, son excellence Yann et aussi Sarah Denakan. Ce que j'aimerais faire maintenant, c'est un peu conclure cette session. J'hésite à l'exprimer en anglais, en français, peut-être, parce que je sais que Géraldine ne parle pas encore parfaitement la langue de Liège, peut-être, pas encore en anglais. And let me say this. I think when we started this conversation early this morning, we set ourselves a few objectives. The first objective was really, we designed this workshop to get to know each other much better. Provide you with an opportunity to discover and learn a bit more about our policies, our gender policy, but also many policies we've discussed throughout the day, on integrated safeguards, on credit policy, on natural resources, on disclosure. All of these policies discussed have been presented. And what we want to make sure is that we provide the time that you need to have a conversation around it. We also wanted you, and we've asked you, to challenge us, but you have to. We have challenged you, and we even challenged each other. So I think it's fair to say that most of all of the objectives, I think, in this meeting, I hope you agree, have been achieved. And I would now like to end this session. I know there are many of us who would like to stay on for another couple of hours. Unfortunately, that's not possible to keep on talking. But this is not the end of the conversation, it's only the beginning. But I would like to ask His Excellency, former President Tian and Sarah Denakan, to have the final words. I know you have some very important messages that you'd like to share with us as civil society organizations.
So thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I talk in English because I know that you are, as me, very clear in fact. Just to say a few things. I think that if civil society wanted to be respected, they have to be respectable. I have been 20 years in the civil society and saw in this world. We can't, as women, ask always others to pay attention to us. We have to deliver, and then people will respect us. Since more than 40 years, since 1975, we are talking about women's rights, women's development. What have we achieved in 40 years? The same words are coming somehow. Women development, women's rights. What have we done? The women calling themselves elite have not paid enough attention to the lower level of the society. Let us be our own tribe. And then we can ask men, because they are our partners, to join us. But let's be first solidary among ourselves. One. Second, the issue of education is vital. I have never been felt myself discriminated. Why? Because I didn't never give any occasion to any man to discriminate me. So you can have your own thoughts, you can have your own opinion, but I am a human being. I can read, I can do what you can do. But first and foremost, I wanted to deliver. I wanted to be among the best of my community. So you can't marginalize me. And that has come from education, my dad. My dad was a military man, and he used to say, you should not be a slave of war. I have been in the farm with my brothers. I clean trees. And I can tell you that many work in the farm, I can do it better than men. But that has come from my own education, my background. And I'm thankful to my dad to have trained me and to have taught me some behavior which will allow me in my community to be as comfortable as at the university when I am lecturer. Third and final, let us be networking in the continent. We are not selling enough our success stories. And in the civil society, some are doing quite well. But many of us are not doing well. They are making business. But also let us be aware of that. We are responsible. If we get funding for some activities, let us not put it in our pocket and go and talk on behalf of population we are meant to serve. Thank you.
Je vais être très bref, parce que lorsqu'on a entendu une parole pleine, il n'y a plus rien à ajouter. Ce qui a été dit ici par la mère, qui était résumé de ce qui s'est passé dans la journée, c'est que ma soeur vient brillamment de dire qu'il rencontre la vision de toutes les femmes. Ajouter quelque chose à cela, ce ne serait pas sage. Vous dites que je suis sage, je vais simplement dire, je suis fier de voir le développement de la mère dans ce domaine, comme dans pas mal de choses, mais dans ce domaine particulier. Pourquoi on est arrivé aujourd'hui à parler de la propriété, comment la mère peut encourager et aller davantage dans ce cadre-là. Alors, je remercie tout le monde. D'abord pour l'honneur que vous me faites en dernière minute de me dire qu'il faut que je dise quelque chose. Et je remercie aussi Madame qui m'a confondu avec mon grand ami, Amos Sawyer, mais il est vrai qu'elle nous avait reçu. Moi, je m'occupais de corporate finance. He was in the political side. So that's why, besides, he was more smarter than me. I'm some guy. But anyway, I would like to thank all of you. I think the initiative to really position this matter in the annual meeting of the African Development Bank is very commendable. And thank you for leading it. And more importantly, I will thank all the participants who has been patient and participating in this seminar. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Je rappelle qu'on va continuer demain matin à 9h30 une discussion avec les ministres sur la question du genre. Je vous invite à participer. Ceux qui n'ont pas pu poser les questions pourront les poser. Merci.